welcome back to Loving Yourself Fit. I'm joined by Fran Garton. I'm super excited to have you here. You are a pain and stress management coach and personal trainer. So we're going to be delving deep into this. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I can't wait. I've heard a little bit of what you do and I've checked out your website and stuff. And I'm really interested in asking you, firing away a lot of questions about all this stuff, because I think it really pertains to a lot of people, and myself included. So I'm really interested in hearing some stuff about this. So first of all, pain and stress management. We all have it. Yep. We all need to know how to manage it. How did you get there? How did you start doing this? Did you go through something that caused you to want to help others?
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to say more than a decade ago, I was working as an adult educator full time. And, you know, when you work for somebody else, they make all the rules and you don't really have a lot of control sometimes over things that change, especially when you're dealing with funding and school boards and all that stuff. Anyway, and so work stress kept increasing and increasing, and, you know, it affects you. I started getting headaches. I started feeling nauseous. I started having like problems with my vision, and I thought I just needed glasses. And so I was so nauseous and so exhausted and had headaches and pain and everything that I literally would take Advil and Gravol as candy. Like I just took it all the time, and I would get up, go to work, teach, come home and go to bed. And that was my life for quite a while. And then one day I went into work and I turned the lights on in my classroom and I couldn't see anything. I had lost vision. Yeah. And for a split second, it was gone in both eyes. And then it came back in one of my eyes, but the other one, it didn't. And so I ended up in bed for 4 months with vision loss and a migraine. And when I say this, people don't really believe me. I literally had a migraine for 4 months, and like no word of a lie. And I would go to Emerge. Yeah. My husband would take me, and they thought I was a drug addict. Because I come in, I have a horrible headache, and they can't find anything wrong. And they did all these tests, and they gave me Demerol. So when you get medication, they usually put it in an IV drip, right? No, they would manually push it through my veins. No saline, just straight meds. Anyway, so I ended up with vision loss, and part of that was stress induced. And so you listen to your body a little bit, but you're like, yeah, I'll be fine. It'll be okay. And so I did kind of listen. I went to part-time work, and then I started working as a personal trainer and got certified for that. And then I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And so I spent many, many years in massive pain. So my pain level was about a 15 out of 10 on a daily basis.
Right.
And so again, nothing would relieve the pain. Nothing helped it. And then I had tests and I took meds and I did all this stuff. And then I met this person. His name is Jason Prasad. He's a bioenergetic natural practitioner. He does a lot of stuff, quantum health, energy, all this stuff. Anyway, and I went and saw him, and he changed what I was eating, and we looked at a lot of other things, stress management, things like that, mindset. And through work with him and work I did with some other people, I ended up getting rid of all of my pain. So I live pain-free. I don't take medication unless I have a flare-up. And so I manage that through nutrition, through movement, through mindset. And so I really am passionate about helping people learn to live without pain. So I have fibro, I have osteoarthritis, but it is possible to have a very minimal pain level if that's what we choose.
Okay. So, and that's good to know, because I think a lot of people are like, well, I have this and that's that. And, you know, I have autoimmune conditions. I am a fitness personal trainer, all this stuff, nutritionist. I think, yes, you can do so much with nutrition. You can do this. But at one point I was like that, like, oh, well, nothing's working. nothing's going to work. My body sucks. Like, it's over. So it's amazing. I think when we all are trying to get the word out that things can be done, it might not make you how you were when you were 20 or something, but it can make you a much, better version of yourself right now. And you can live happily and move and feel great. So tell me a little bit about the things you use to make people feel better, the nutrition, the movement, all these things. Why don't you let me know some tools you use with people?
So before I do that, to be perfectly honest, I want to talk a little bit about pain, if that's okay with you. I think
definitely, like, and knowing maybe knowing what the pain is about, because sometimes I think people think I had a mystery for years. Well, what's wrong? What's happening with my body? And you kind of had a mystery too. So how do you get also, as well as that, I'd love to know, like, how people can kind of, when you have a mysterious illness or pain or something, how do you figure it out? It's so hard. They're trying to diagnose you. Who knows? They think you're a drug addict, all this. So yeah, how do you get to the bottom of it, and how do you know what's going on?
Okay. So the reason I want to talk a little bit about pain is, so I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not a medical practitioner anyway. I'm just giving my experience and what's worked for me.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of research out there on pain. And so I want you to think about pain from a very basic level. And we all know this. Many, many thousands of years ago, we hunt and killed our food, and we've gathered and all that stuff, right? And so our body prepares us for danger. Our body responds to an injury that we have to make sure that we don't continue to do something that causes more injury. So if I cut my hand off, I'm going to bleed and it's going to hurt, right? And what that is that our body, the pieces of our body, don't know on their own that we have pain. Our brain tells us that we have pain. So think about like a kid when you're young and your parents are like, don't touch the stove because it's hot. And you're like, it's not hot, it's a stove. I look at it like, so you touch it and then it hurts, right? But the thing is that we don't know that that's painful. Our brain tells us. So the nerves, the receptors in our body, wherever the pain is happening, sends the message up the spinal column into the brain cell, and your brain goes, oh, this is not good, this is pain, and then it remembers that, okay, it catalogs it,
right.
And then it sends the message back down, and my hand that was on the hot stove is now, I go, ow. So this happens in like milliseconds, right? But our body doesn't necessarily know that it's pain until it happens, and it keeps that as a memory, like a card catalog kind of thing. So then the next time I go towards something, or I'm in an environment that looks like, oh, I remember, and I'm not remembering, my brain is going through my catalog saying, remember that stove and it was really red and hot and we touched it and it kind of was glow. Oh, this over here looks like it's like that, so don't touch that because it's hot. Is it really hot?
Right.
I don't know. Right? But our body, our brain has made that connection and gone through that catalog of memory and says, it could be hot. Don't touch it. So we go, okay, that's going to be hot. So the same idea, the same thing happens with pain. Our body moves in a particular way. And let's say I bend over and then I feel a pain in my back, right? There are many reasons that as a fitness professional, there are many reasons that when I bend over, then I feel pain in my back. There's a lot of mechanical things happening. But what's happening in the body is your brain, your body is protecting itself. And it's saying, hey, Meagan, if you bend over, that's going to hurt. So let's not bend over anymore. And you go, oh, okay, I don't do that anymore. So it's the same thing. Like I had a client I was training, and I said, we're going to do this exercise. And I showed her and she looked at me and she goes, I can't do that. And I'm like, but you haven't done it yet. And she sort of stopped herself and went, oh, yeah, I actually haven't done it yet. I said, no. So why don't we step by step move you into that movement rather than just jumping in? And let's see, because again, the muscles remember, the brain remembers. So we have to show it that it's not always going to hurt when we do something. Now, we have structural issues or we've broken a bone or something. I mean, of course, there's limitations on that. But your body remembers that movement. The body remembers the pain that was caused by that movement. So as soon as you attempt to make it, your brain has already been like, oh man, Meagan's going to bend over. Okay, everybody get ready. Everybody on board. Let's start the pain. Are we ready? 2, 3. Like, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
And then you bend over and you're like, oh, it hurts. And so does it hurt? Sure. But is there a reason that it hurts? So number one, our brain has cataloged that to say every time she bends over, again, protective mode, let's make it hurt. But then there's also things like what's happening with the muscles. Are the muscles tight and they're holding things in a particular pattern? Are we moving in a particular pattern that is an imbalance? So then why one side, let's say my left side isn't able to do what's supposed to, so my right side compensates, which then flares up the pain. So there's a lot of components to it, but there is a lot of research that shows that the brain and the pain that we feel is learned, and it's not necessarily something that actually happens, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah.
And there's, you know, there's that expression, you know, the neurons that fire together, wire together. So every time I think about something, so think about mindset. This is where this mindset piece comes in. Every time I have a negative thought pattern, or every time I have a habit that I do, like, okay, I'm a smoker, maybe I'm not a smoker, but let's say I smoke, then my habit is I need to have a smoke. I need to have a cigarette at a certain time or in a certain pattern after I have my meal, maybe. Your body remembers that, and that's just the pattern that you do. So it's so much easier to go down that path of have my cigarette, or it's painful when I bend over, than it is to rewire the pattern. Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying, it's kind of like we're on a road and we're going down the straight part of the road and we come to a fork. Well, normally we go left. Left is pain. Right is, I don't know what's happening on the right. So again, brain and the body, to keep us safe, is like, okay, come on, Meagan, we know left. Left is a little bit of back.
We'll go the safe way.
We have some Advil, we'll put some ice on it. Maybe we take a nap. Like, we know what we do. So let's do that. Whereas if we go right, the body's like, we don't know what is going to happen there.
Right.
So let's not do that. So you just follow the same pattern. So it goes the same way with pain and stress and all of that, is that we are in this sort of cycle of this pattern that we are tolerating because, and this is, you know, I get asked this question a lot, why do people tolerate pain? Because it's easy. Because it's easy.
Yeah.
And when it comes to, and this comes back to the question you asked, how do you deal with this pain? How do you minimize it or get rid of it? It takes a lot of work. Like, nutrition's great. You know how important that is, right? So, you know, mindset's really important, but it's the work that you have to do to get through the mindset piece. So when it comes to tools, because I know you had asked me about that, does that give you a sort of an understanding of pain and how?
Definitely. I think it gave me a lot of questions also. But
about the tools, and then you can ask whatever you want.
Yes. Okay. Keep it.
From a nutritional point of view, there's research everywhere for everything. So I'm telling you what works for me.
Yeah.
There are foods that are inflammatory and are not good for our gut health. And so if you have poor gut health, then that's definitely going to affect your pain levels and your muscles and your recovery and all that. So I recommend an anti-inflammatory eating regime. So really no gluten, no dairy, no sugar, no soy, no corn, which I know when I say that, people think, oh, you're crazy. And it's funny because I've been gluten-free for 25 years. Like, half my life has been gluten-free. So for me, I'm like, I don't know why it's a big deal. Whereas other people I know are like, I can't go without bread. Actually, you can. And if it affects your pain, so that's where I get that idea, that word of tolerate. You're tolerating it because your body is used to it. So you got to think about, if you're in inflamed state, or if you're in pain and you're just constantly in pain, then your normal state is pain.
Yeah.
Like, think about when I was at a 15 out of 10. That's just how I was. When I started to, change things, my pain level went down to an 8. And I was like, 8 out of 10 is rocking good. Like, that's amazing. And people, like my husband, look at me and go, that is not good. I'm like, well, considering I was 15, I'm pretty happy with 8. Whereas now I'm at like a 0. Like, today I have 0 pain. I'm at a 0 today. And
that's awesome.
I know. But I think to myself, man, when I get to like a 3, I think I'm going to die. And my husband again looks at me and he's like, you lived through like a 15 for like years. I'm like, yeah, no, but now it's all relative. It's all
different. Yeah. Yeah.
So people who are in a cycle of pain and inflammation, they don't really know what it feels like to not really have pain. And it's
or how good they could feel if they.
Yes.
It's the same with fitness or taking care of yourself. You don't know how good you could feel if you're not doing it and not getting the benefits and not. Yeah.
And so, that's the biggest thing that I recommend with food. And to be perfectly honest, I know that sounds very restrictive for people. So I just say to people, you know what, just give up sugar. Sugar is really not good because the fascia, so all the connective tissue in the body, allows us to move, and it should slide and glide and be flexible. When we eat sugar, our fascia becomes like Velcro and it literally sticks together and it can't move. And then when you try to actually move, you have pain because the muscles are supposed to be pliable and they're not because you're eating sugar. So if anyone who's listening to this and you think I'm crazy and you're not going to give up all the things, just give up sugar. And I'm sure, Meagan, the same thing to your clients. Just give up sugar.
Definitely.
Eat everything else if you want. Just let's get rid of some sugar because that would.
And I love that picture. I love that picture you gave of the fascia because that's something I can go to when I'm like, oh, I want something sweet. But then you can be like, ooh, like that does that. Like I like that image kind of,
Yeah. And it's interesting because when you remove it from your life, and sugar addiction it is
it's huge.
to be worse than heroin. Worse.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
So,
I've been there.
Yeah, I know we all have, right? So just give it up and then you'll see, like it will take time. But for some people, if they gave it up, they might feel the effects of that within like a week.
Yeah.
I've worked with clients that they do like my 7-day reset, and they give up sugar and gluten. And in a week, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe how good I feel. Yeah. So it really is.
Yeah, definitely.
The other piece is about emotions. So emotions cause pain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a sort of trauma. It can be a sort of trauma if you have a negative emotion that you're holding on to. So anger, resentment, things like that. If things that have happened in the past, again, you are creating pain in your body because your body absorbs those emotions. It has to deal with them in some way. And in many cases, we are not taught to deal with our emotions. We're taught to, don't cry because it's weak, and don't get angry because it's not acceptable, and don't do that. And so we're given all these rules of what we can't do. And it's like, okay, then what am I supposed to do with my emotions? Like when I'm upset about something, like I need to get upset, but I'm not allowed to get upset. So what happens? Your body stores it. And so sometimes when you are thinking about, okay, what is happening in my body? Why do I have this pain? Check your emotions. So I have a stress spot. It's my right low back. And when I get stressed, I get immediate pain there. And I'm not doing anything. Yeah. I could be standing. Yeah. I could be sitting. I could be asleep and have a stress. Yeah. And my low back down the right side just tenses up because that's.
Same here. I got it in my neck. I got my neck. I know right away. I'm like, what's happening?
The thing is that we have taught, again, our body is protecting us, right? Our body is like, okay, she's feeling stressed now. Let's remind her to like not push a little bit harder, to just kind of pull back or to pay attention. So your body gets the pain, and either you pay attention or you don't. And some people do not, which, is not the best thing. That's the other thing. Emotions are really important. Forgiveness work is really important. Because we spend a lot of time. So this is something I'd like, to share with the listeners, the viewers, that, we can live in the past, we can live in the present, or we can live in the future. So when you're living in the past, again, I want you to think about the brain and that roadway, right? You are teaching your brain to continually relive a negative experience.
Right.
If you are thinking about the future and like, what's going to happen or how's this going to work out or blah, blah, blah. Okay. You are now on a different road. So you're on the future path, but you have no control over that. So when it comes to that, why would I live in the past and suffer through things I've already suffered for? and felt
Mhm.
again and again. Why would I do that? And why would I worry about the future that I really have no control over? So really think about what's happening now. How can we do things now to, make us happy, make us well, make us healthy and pain free? But that's kind of where like the thought process comes in, and where people have to do some forgiveness work, because a lot of us, I think myself included, I did the work, I'm still doing the work. Things come up from the past. You're like, God, I did something last night with someone, and I was like, okay, I did this part. She's like, we're going to work on forgiveness, and we're going to work on mothers. And I'm like, I did this. I did my mother work. And then she said something, oh man, I forgot about that thing. Like she just said this.
Oh yeah.
Oh, come on. I just did mother work. So it's interesting because you think you've done the work, and then all of a sudden something else is layers, right? It's like layers.
Yeah. Yeah. You're always working on yourself. Yeah. It's a continuous thing, and I think sometimes people think they're going to get somewhere and then that's it. They're going to be solved. But it is, I think, the more and more you go, the more you see, I'm going to continue working the rest of my life on bettering myself and feeling better and doing all this work. Right. Yeah. Okay. So circling back, I had a lot of questions. Well, there's one here that just came up in my head. We were talking about stress and like feeling it in our body and all this stuff. How, like, let's say someone doesn't feel a pain like us, like, okay, we're in tune. We're like, oh shoot, that means something. I think a lot of people get very stressed and they don't realize until it's way too late. And then they're in this abyss of pain and stress and all this. Is there any way people can kind of start tuning in? How can they tune in? Is it meditation? Is it like, what do you think people that might not realize they're a little stressed at the start? Mm-hmm. And then it ends up being this big ball of stress that it's huge at that point. Like, how can people start tuning in and figuring that out? And then also on that same vein, I'd love to know, when we feel that stress and we ignore it, like, how can we not like stop ignoring things? Like, cause I do that. Oh, I'm stressed. I'm super stressed. I'm going to keep being stressed. I'm stressed. I'm going to keep being stressed. How do we step out of that? Because I think also there's a lot of like, that balance of, okay, I need to not be stressed. I need to take it easy, but also I don't want to just be like, oh, well, yeah, never mind my goals. I'm just going to lie down and take it easy now. Like, how do you find that balance? Okay. Right?
That's a lot.
I'm still looking for it. I know.
I have lots of things to share. Okay. So the first thing, you mentioned about how do people know if they don't have that stress spot? Okay. So stress manifests in many ways. Okay. So you can have a physical, like you have a pain. That's one thing. Maybe your poop is not very good.
Right.
You are constipated or you have diarrhea. So that partly related to your stress. You're not sleeping well. You're irritable. You're not absorbing your food and your water that you're drinking. You are moody and arguing with your partner or your kids, or your fuse is short. You're like, oh my God, like everything irritates you. Sleeping disruptions, pain in your body, like just general tiredness and pain in your body. So there are lots of things that happen in our life that tell us that stress is happening. But we really need to tune into that. Right?
Yeah.
Did I get all the things I wanted to? I think you might have breakouts. Acne could happen because of stress.
Yes.
Hair loss because of stress. Like there's so much dry skin, eczema, all those kinds of things. That's all stress related. Now,
and what do you think? Like,
it could be food related as well, but those two kind of go hand in hand. But if you have a lot of stress, you could get hives. I have a friend who, when she gets stressed, she gets hives, like really bad hives.
Yeah.
Crazy. So there are things that happen. And if you pay attention to what's happening in your body, you will know that you're stressed, and you'll know that this is the thing that shows me that I'm stressed, even if it's not a physical pain like you and I experience.
Yeah. But sometimes I think people have these things and they're like, oh, let me go to the doctor. And then they get prescribed something for something totally different and they don't realize it's stress. You know what I mean? Like I've even had that. I've had acne. I'm like, okay, my skin is messed up. But then I started paying attention to some other things and then that cleared it up. Right. But some people may just go to a dermatologist, and I was tempted at one point, like, oh, just give me some cream, give me some drugs, do something to fix this, which is just kind of masking sometimes the stress. I mean, it might be something that needs to be dealt with, but it might be stress or something you're not dealing with.
I have a stress it.
Yeah. Oh, I have a few right now, I think.
I don't have it right now because I'm not stressed, but I get it right in the middle of my chin. Like I really do. And
yeah.
every time it happens, like I'll get up, my husband goes, "Oh, what's going on?" I'm like,
"Oh yeah, I know."
I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, "Look at go, look in the mirror. Stress it is here." And I'm like, "Oh God."
Oh no.
Pay attention, right? And maybe you don't notice. Yeah. Ask your partner. Ask your kids.
Yeah, true.
They
true.
Noticed, right?
They see it. Yeah.
So other things come up. So then the other thing I would say is there's two things about stress that I want to talk about. Number one, we use stress for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we use that term, that label for everything. And so if you are feeling stressed and you think, "Oh God, I'm really stressed today," I would say, and I do this as well, take a moment, just stop, take a moment and really think about what is the emotion that you're really feeling. Are you really stressed, or are you anxious? Are you irritated? Are you angry? Are you hungry? Are you sad? Are you depressed? Do you want to cry? Like, what is happening? There might be something else happening, and we just use the word stress. Well, no, actually, I'm irritated because my partner at work didn't do the part of this project that we're supposed to, and now we're like getting close to the deadline. Like, I'm irritated that person didn't do what they were supposed to. I'm frustrated. I'm confused. Like, what is the feeling that you actually have? Instead of just saying it's stress. Because when we say it's stress, it's just such a broad category. So I would recommend just take a minute and just think about what am I really feeling right now? And like you said, when you've got all these things you want to do for your goals and your business and your life, and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm so stressed." No, you might just be really, really frustrated and overwhelmed. Because you have too many things to do, right? So you're overwhelmed. So now the reason it's important is because then when you can identify really what emotion is attached to it, then you can figure out what you can do to change that.
They can deal with it. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then
or fix the problem. Yeah,
exactly. Or some kind of strategy. So the other thing that I like to do with my clients as far as stress is concerned, there's tons of research on stress. I like it to be very simple. There are two kinds of stress, internal and external. That's it. Internal stressors, okay, are things that you have control over. So my internal stresses are my emotions, my thoughts, my actions, my words, my behavior. Like, that's what I have control over. Okay. I have control over some of the decisions that I make in my life. Absolutely. But it's about my part in those things I control. External stressors are all the things we don't control. So everybody else's actions, emotions, thoughts, words, what they contribute, what they don't contribute, whether they show up, scheduling, banking, COVID.
Right.
What happens though, and the reason I'm saying this, what happens is that people are taking a lot of the external stressors and they're actually pretending that they're internal stressors. So a good example of this is we're doing this recording right now. We're doing this interview, right? And am I stressed about it? Not at all. Because all I can control is what I say, what I do, the information I provide. I hope that it's helpful. Yeah. I'm here. I'm showing up, giving the best that I can. But in the end, you might decide, Meagan, oh my God, she's a horrible guest. I'll never have her again. Like, that's awful. And people that listen to this might go, oh, she's full of crap. I don't want to know. I'm not giving up gluten. Forget it. She's out. I'm out. but I don't have any control over that, right? Like, I really don't. So all I can really control is I'm going to answer your questions, and I want to provide value for your people, and hopefully they can take those things away and implement them. So those are all external stressors for me. So am I stressed? No, I'm here to talk about things that are helpful and that I'm passionate about, and I hope that it helps people. What they decide on their end is not, I don't have control over that. So there's no reason for me to be stressed. Like, I have no control over COVID. Like, none, zero. What can I do if there's breakouts, if there's the needles, if there isn't, if there's not? Like, I have zero control over anything related to that. So why am I
Yeah.
stressing about COVID? Like, I'm not. I haven't been stressed about it at all because,
Yeah.
okay, am I stressed about the impact on business? Okay, that's a little bit different. Now, that's something I can control to a certain extent. I can only offer
Yeah.
what I offer. If people do not want it, then I can't control that, right? So think about your stressor. So this is what I would say as a practical tip. Write down all the things that stress you out. Like, write them down on a piece of paper. And then I want you to go over that list, and I want you to put an I beside it if it's an internal stressor. So remember, internal things are things that you can control. This is not your spouse, not your children, not even your clients. You can't control them. You can only guide them to a certain point, and when they decide, that's their decision, right? We can't control that. So put an I beside all those, and then external stressors, put an E beside all of those ones. Because sometimes we think our family and friends and kids are internal, but they're not.
Oh yeah, all the time.
But they're external, so we stress about it. And so I know it sounds very simplistic, but when you do that and you look at it, then I want you to look at all the ones that you've got on there that are external stressors. You should remove them from the list. Like, cross them out. Make yourself a new list. These are my stressors. Write them down. This is your internal list. These are all the things I can control. And that's ultimately it. Like that, it sounds very simplistic and is very difficult to do. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
It's time. But if you really look at it and can I control this? No. Okay.
Okay. So, but how do you get there? Right. Cause I'm a big person to not even, like, for example, COVID, we were talking about, I don't even care. I don't even listen. I'm like, I can't help it. And I don't stress. I don't stress about a lot of external things, but there are some things. So if there's like certain external things, like family, like kids, these are the things I stress about sometimes. The ones that are so hard to get over, how do you get over them? How? Like, I know it's like, you can say, okay, those we don't need to be worried about, but people still are, obviously. Yeah. And people are, how are some small ways that we can kind of like, okay, I'm moving away from that. Like, that's not my stress.
So the biggest problem, I think, the challenge that people have when it is with stress and dealing with it is relationships. So first of all, everything takes practice. Everything.
Right.
But yes. We teach people what we accept. And so I'll just use an example from my childhood. So my brother was a very picky eater. And so my mother would make him separate food. I didn't get separate food. I got what she made. And if I didn't want to eat it, I didn't get it. But she made separate stuff for him. He's picky and but whatever reason. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what reason is. But so she got conditioned and he got conditioned that if he didn't want to eat it, he would just say no and she would make him something else. Whereas I was taught you eat this or you don't, right? Like that's what we're having for dinner. So, but it's right. So I was taught one way, he was taught another way. We teach the people in our lives what we will tolerate. So if we will tolerate our kids leaving their stuff all over the floor, then they leave it all over, like, because there's no consequence for them. There's no reason for them to pick it up because you've taught them that it's acceptable to do that. When I deal with other people, let's say I have relationships, because this is hard, right? We allow people to behave and to say things and to be the way that they are, even if we don't like it. If we don't like it, we need to say something. So if you're finding yourself in this situation where you're with people in your life and they're like, they just stress you out, like, you need to change your boundaries. You need to not engage. That's probably the easiest tip that I would say, Meagan, when you're talking to somebody and especially people who, there's people in our lives that when you talk to them, you can just feel the tension and you can feel your anxiety starting to rise. As soon as they open their mouth, you're like, oh man, what's coming? Right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes those people like a platform. They want someone to listen and they want to feed the fire and they want you to feed the fire. So they start it and then you continue and it just keeps going. So the most important thing is you just don't engage. Because people who, whether they're complaining or they're whatever they're doing or saying, if you don't engage, there's nothing to do. There's no response.
Right.
So if you said something, let's say about COVID, well, that's, and you started going on and on about all, and I go, oh, and then you kind of stop, and then you would start again, and I go, and then you're kind of like, oh man. So then you start again, right? And then usually by the third time, whoever it is kind of just goes, well, Fran's not going to let me get all riled up and angry about the government and the medication, blah, blah. So I'm not talking to her anymore. And they're like, okay. And then they'll go. Like, they'll just either leave or change the subject. So the strategy, like for anything, do not engage. Because to have that sort of interaction and to have that situation created where maybe it causes stress, I can't have that with that person if I'm not having a dialogue with them.
Yeah.
And, the thing is that, like I said, we create our own environment. We create our own boundaries, or maybe we don't create boundaries. Maybe we have none. And that's where the stress is that you're interacting with people and allowing them to be in a way and behave in a way that just doesn't work for you. And we need all of us to stand up for ourselves and just say, that's not acceptable. Because again, I think about this from a perspective as a parent or an aunt or kids that are in your life. Like, if you're allowing person X to cause you stress and anxiety in a conversation or in an interaction, your children, your nieces, nephews, whoever is in your life, those kids are watching you with that pattern. And then they're going to then repeat that pattern as they grow up. So why don't we teach them better ways to, say, yeah, I don't like that topic, or no, I don't want to talk about that, or it makes me feel uncomfortable. Like, if we can teach them to say it, then they won't be like you and I at this point in our lives trying to deconstruct that. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, definitely. Yeah.
Young. So look at the internal, external, kind of take them away, but then look at where are those external things. Is it relationships? Well, then you probably have to do some work on creating some boundaries, maybe with relationships. And, sometimes when we do this kind of work and we're improving ourselves and our relationships change, and that probably is the fear part of it. Because you might not be friends with those same people, or you might not spend as much time with them because your perspective is different. Things change, and that's okay. I think you don't have to have someone in your life just because they're family, or you don't have to have someone as your best friend that you had when you were 14 as you do when you're 42. Like, you don't have to. Things change. And so I think that's another thing. Look at what you want in your life and what's giving you positive things in your life. And if it's not, then there needs to be a change. That's my perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Okay, awesome. Yes, it answers all my questions. And what about movement? Tell me about movement. What do you think? I guess coming at it from a place of love is my big thing, and not feeling like I have to go do this workout, and there's so many other options than just a typical workout that you think you might not like. So how do you get people moving? What do you think about all that? Yeah.
So I really, having fibro, I find that, and I find that the fitness industry is not as inclusive as it should be, for different bodies. And so I don't do a typical workout. Like, I don't know the last time I lifted a weight. Like, I have a full studio and I train clients, but I don't really pick up a weight. So I agree with you. You should do what feels good for your body and what's enjoyable for your body.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily follow a particular program. I have lots of weights around here. I don't really lift my weights. I might put on some music and dance to my favorite songs, and that's a great way to get your heart rate going.
Always the best. Yes. Definitely.
I love hula hooping, so sometimes I'll put on a song I like, and I'll just hula hoop for that duration of the song. I do qigong is lovely. It's such a gentle form movement, but it also has a meditative aspect to it. So that's a great option. I just think people should do what feels good for them. And I work with people on mobility because many of us, even in the fitness world, we don't do mobility, or we do like 30 seconds a week. And they're like, that's my mobility work for the week. And you're like, really? That's it? Yeah, I did a couple of leg circles. I'm good. Did some hip circles. Shoulder roll, good. That's my mobility for the week. But the thing is that, again, if the fascia is not healthy, if blood flow is not going there, then it's going to get all sticky like Velcro, and we're not going to move. So, mobility is keeping all the joints working the way that they are, at their optimum level is important. So, but I think anything to make your body happy is important. And I'm a huge proponent of foam rolling. So, and I teach 3-hour workshops on foam rolling because I find people really just don't know how to apply it properly. And it's such a game changer, especially if you have pain. And if you're active, it's great prep, it's great recovery. There's so many benefits to it. So that's another thing. So if you don't feel like you're moving in a traditional way, or today is not a good day for you, just grab a foam roller and foam roll for 5 minutes. That is just as good as doing a 45-minute workout, which I do.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. There's other things you can do other than bouncing around for an hour or something. Yeah. And how do you think, how can people find things they love? Because I think people aren't open to it sometimes. They're just like, oh, working out is working out. And how do we unlock this for people? I feel like there's so many options that people have to try them to know if they like them. Do you recommend things? When you have clients, do you say, oh, why don't you give this a go? Or how do we do that, do you think?
So it's all about, and it's a great question, it's all about your willingness to try something. And I think it's really important when it comes to finding somebody to work with.
Yeah.
You need to make a connection with the person that you're working with. Whether you're coaching, whether I'm doing pain management with them, whether we're doing fitness stuff, how people are going to work with you, there has to be a connection to that person. And if there is no connection, there's just no point. So it doesn't matter that you are the best fitness person I've ever met in my whole entire life, Meagan. But when I meet you, I'm like, she's lovely, but she's not my person. She's really good at what
definitely.
But there's no, you just don't. So I think it's really important if people are trying things or they're looking for something. Everybody that I know in the fitness and coaching industry is all about a discovery call. There is always a free half an hour or 20 minutes or whatever. I encourage people, if you're looking for someone, book them. All the people that you're thinking about looking and working with, book those calls and have those calls. Because truly, and I don't know how you do things, but for me, it truly is no obligation. If someone wants to talk to me and they say, I have a pain, can you help me? Yeah, let's jump on a 15-minute call. Tell me what's wrong. I will give you a couple options, and that's it. You go. There's no obligation for you to work with me, but if you want to, then we could have that conversation, but it's not part of the call. The call is you meet me, we talk, I give you some suggestions for pain, and off you go. Yeah. That's how it is. But I think too, we have a whole world of social media out there. You should be creeping everybody. Everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
What's their content? And what are, and not just their posts, because posts are so static, right? Do they have a YouTube? Do they do lives? Do they do work? Go and find what they're doing and watch what they're doing and see what kind of energy they have, what kind of information they're offering. For somebody who wants to come to me, if they want fat loss or weight loss, I mean, I can help you do that, but that's not my area of expertise. It will be a side effect. And that's, I think, so that's the crux of everything. And I'm sure you see it even with people that you work with. People do not want to lose weight. People want to feel healthy. People want to feel sexy. People want to feel like their partner is attracted to them. People want to feel young. People want to feel energetic. They want to play with their kids. They want to pick stuff up and not hurt themselves. They want to be, that's why people come to trainers and coaches. It has nothing to do with losing weight. That's the byproduct of all the other stuff. But
definitely,
when people realize that, which is why I think it's really important to kind of search it out and look and see who are the people that are out there. Ask for referrals, ask people that ask around. and you find the person to do what you want, because it's never, and people can say this, and I stand firm by this, it's never only about weight loss. That is not what it's about.
No, yeah.
That's the ultimate thing that got you to make the phone call to me or to Meagan or whoever else, but that's not what you want. You don't want weight loss. You want to feel sexy and beautiful, or you want to be strong and healthy.
Yeah.
Right? So I think when people realize that, then they can get a little bit deeper into who should they work with, because there is a lot of stuff. But when it comes to doing stuff with my clients, like I have clients that are in their 30s and I have clients who are 76. So I have a very broad range. And so it's all about how you approach it, like as a trainer. And my perspective always is, let's try.
Yeah.
Like that's always how let's try. When I started seniors, they didn't lift any weights at all. Yeah. And then they were like, after 6 weeks, they're like, do you think we could pick up some weights? Sure. So I had 3-pound balls. And then they were like, what about those? I'm like, those are 5. We should use those. Sure. Let's use those. Like, they're just like, they're very open to everything. Like, I got a battle rope and I got all this stuff. And they're like, can we use that? Sure.
It's fun, right? Like, it's awesome when it's fun, when it's like a fun conclusion. Like, oh, I want to do that, I want to try that.
Yeah. And so that's kind of, I think people need to find what works for them. And that's why I think the fitness industry in many cases, and not everybody obviously, and it's changing, which it's
getting better, a little better.
Yeah. That it's still about, lifting weight, and lifting weights are boring. Let's be clear. It's really boring. Like, I mean, it's boring. It's satisfying. But it's really boring. I'd rather dance. I'd rather hula hoop.
Right. I think a lot of people would, and they just don't realize that that's going to be an awesome thing to do. Like, I think a lot of people are like, yeah, but I want to lose weight. Like, that is the end. Like, a lot of people, that's what they're telling people. Like, I just want to lose weight. What will do it quick? And like, how will I do it quickly? And I'm like, but
there's no,
you don't need to go to a gym. In order to be healthy and feel great. And, I love the gym personally, but a lot of people don't. No. A lot of people, I love to dance also. There's so many modes of getting there and getting into your body, even not about fitness and all this, but that whole, like, just feeling your body, moving your body, feeling good in your body. There's so many beautiful ways to do that.
I just encourage people, just try different things.
Try stuff, right? Don't be scared to try. Yeah.
Stuff. I mean, really, since all this happened, there were so many things that were virtual, but ever since COVID happened, like, everything is online. Like, you can take classes with someone.
Everything.
Everywhere, anywhere, everywhere, everything. You can find something. So invest in something. Community centers. So that's the other thing I noticed. And I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but I know where I am. There's lots of online programs. And community centers are very inexpensive. Whether you want to do it online or in person, you can do a 10-week program for like $40, which is not a huge price point for what you're getting. So try something. Try a short thing. There's lots of, things out there. And if there's someone, this is what I would recommend. If there's someone out there that you want to try something with, do a class with them or do a session with them, why not send them a message and say, hey, I'd like to try a class with you. Would you let me come for free? Would you give me a complimentary class? I'm thinking about getting a personal trainer. Could I meet you and we do something for half an hour? Like, they might say no, but they might say yes. And worst case, you got a free workout and
tried something new.
And maybe you end up liking it. So I do really think the connection is really important. And if you
definitely,
like, you have to trust that person because they are guiding you, and you probably are going to be with them for a period.
Yeah, you have to like them. Yeah, you have to like being with them.
And that's the thing. I'm sure you're the same. Like, you don't necessarily take every client that comes to you. Like, I have clients that come to me, I'm like, I'm sorry, it's not. I can't help you.
It's not going to be the right thing. Yeah,
it's not a good fit, or they're not ready because, again, yes, weight loss, okay, fine, but that is not what you need. That's not what you're looking for. You've just told me there's something deeper going on, and some people, you have to come to it in your own time. But
yeah, how do people get to it? How do you, like, I know, yes, you have to come to it on your own. I have come to it on my own through my many, many years of living, for sure. You know, when I was younger, of course, that was my go-to: lose weight, lose weight, lose weight. And you grow up, and I think it's usually in older people, they're starting to realize that it's not anything about lose weight. It's about so many other things. And yes, the weight loss, whatever, if you're eating right and exercising, it will be there. It's not, but it's not even, it doesn't even matter. Like, it's all these other more important things, health and like everything, right? So how do you get people to, I don't know, like, you can't get people obviously to find that, but are there any like things that can kind of, because I have that issue with people a lot where I'm like, but what is your more exciting goal than weight? Like, you know, there can be way more exciting goals than weight loss.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
Yeah. So there's a couple things. So number one, some people will never get there.
Right.
That's just the way it is. And so you can, you know, I'm sure there are people that are in your circle that you're like, you know, it'd be great if you could not fried things, not so many hamburgers. Like, I'm not saying don't, but let's cut, you know, but they're just not going to. So there are some people that you're just never going to get there anyway. But then the other thing too is, I would say if you are trying things, and this is where I think many people don't actually commit to anything because they're looking for the quick fix. And the reality is, I mean, I am speaking for myself, every other fitness professional in the whole entire world, and wellness person. I'm speaking for all of us. If there were a magic pill, one, I'd be taking it, and two, I would be a bajillionaire.
Right.
We would, like, that's just the reality. We'd be selling that. Like, they would be marked. Somebody would have it. Amazon, probably Jeff Bezos or somebody would own it. You know what I mean? Like, Facebook would own it. I have no idea, right? But there's no quick fix. And so the thing is, that's where the mindset piece comes in. You have to be consistent. So, you know, I used to teach English as a second language, and I used to run into this all the time with students. When can I like do all the levels? Well, I don't know. When did you start studying English? Like 3 months ago. Okay. Well, so you think in 3 months that you're like, and I used to say to them, if I went to your country and I wanted to learn, I don't know, Persian, how long would it take me to learn Persian? They're like, oh my God, it would take you years. And there's your answer. It could take you years. It depends what you want. But so number one, you know, what have you been doing? Have you been consistent with it? And if you're frustrated, then really look at, are you really being consistent with it? Because if you're not, then that's where the shortcoming is. It could be you just started your journey, so it will take time, right? Like, let's use weight loss. How long did it take you to gain the extra 25 pounds?
Right. Exactly.
Overnight, so it's not going to be gone overnight, right? Like, let's think about that. And then the other thing too is, you know, people need time to come to the realization of what they really want. And so then that's what I would say, you know, why do you want to lose weight? This is a famous Tony Robbins story. He was coaching someone, right? And he's like, what do you want? He goes, I want $1 million. And he goes, oh, why do you want $1 million? He goes, well, because I want to buy a business. And he goes, oh, so you want to buy a business? He goes, well, yeah. He goes, so you want the $1 million to buy the business? He goes, yeah. Why do you want to buy the business? Tony Robbins says. He goes, oh, well, because then I can make more money. He goes, okay, so you want money? He's like, no. I don't want money. He goes, what? Okay. So what are you going to do with the money? He goes, I'm going to buy a sports car. And he goes, oh, okay. So you want the money to own the business to get more money so you can buy a sports car? And he goes, yes. And Tony Robbins says, why do you want a sports car? And he says, well, because then I can get a girlfriend and a wife and fall in love. And he goes, oh, so you want a girlfriend and you want a wife? He goes, yeah. He goes, why do you want that? And he said, because I want love. So Tony Robbins says to him, so you don't want the sports car, you don't want the business, you don't want you want love. That's what you want. And he's like, yeah, I want love. He goes, oh, okay. So for people that are kind of there and they don't know what they want, or they want the weight loss. Yeah. Well, why do you want to lose 25 pounds? Well, because I'll feel better. Well, why will it make you feel better? So just keep using those why questions and dig a little bit deeper, which gets you down to what is the core issue of what they are looking for. And then from there,
I love that.
You can kind of build in sort of some of that mindset and the changing of thoughts and things like that to get you closer to that. Because once you peel off all the other layers of all the other things, the weight loss and the happy and the feeling and looking better come automatically.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
all the other things are positive and in your life, right? So I think that we use losing weight or, you know, getting ready for a wedding or whatever it is, right? That's the thing that we want, but it's not really what we want. There's something
Yeah.
else.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I'm going to do that for myself for a lot of things. That's amazing. So it's been so great talking to you. I love all your perspectives. They're so interesting and fresh, you know, fresh to hear, great to hear in the fitness world, you know. How can everyone see you online? What's your do you have Instagram? What are you doing there?
Yep, you can follow me on Instagram. It's Fran Garton Pain Coach.
Okay.
And yeah, they can follow me there. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I'm all over the place. But yeah, the Instagram is the best place. So Fran Garton Pain Coach. And if you go into there's a link tree on there. There is actually a free pain quiz that you can take. Which I recommend for everybody. And it just goes through a bunch of statements. And then based on what you answer, you get some information on some suggestions of what might be causing the pain in your body. And so I encourage that. It's free for everybody, and do that quiz. And if you have questions, then send me a message and I'm happy to discuss your results or figure out what's going on and help you live pain-free.
Definitely. Awesome. I'm going to do that quiz right now. Okay. Thank you so much for being here today, Fran. That was an awesome talk. Hopefully we'll talk again. I feel like I could go on all day.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay. Thank you. We'll talk soon. Bye.